Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today we have learned some exciting new details about Battlefield Hardline, and that is the fact that it finally looks like Visceral is ramping up destruction. This has always been something that I've been very hesitant about Hardline because from previews and playing the beta, it felt like a lot of the maps were going to be stagnant. They weren't going to be very destructible. You guys know that during the beta, the only thing that was really destructible were the major Levolution events. You could take down the crane, which was kind of cool. Honestly, it was more just annoying because it shook the map to its core, and you also had the option to take out the pillar below the overpass and cause that nice road ramp. That was about it. You shot an RPG or an M320 at basically any other surface in the game and there would be a nice little explosion, but there would actually be no physical damage to the environment. And so I was very worried that that same level design was going to be transferred to all of the other maps in the game, and we were going to be left with a battlefield that felt hollow and didn't have that type of destruction that we've come to expect. That doesn't seem to be a problem in the slightest, and I would actually say that from the couple of previews that we've seen so far that just launched today, they are actually ramping up destruction and going down a path that I am really excited to see. Here, for example, we're on a new map called Bank Job. A few of the criminals are making their way through the vaults, and as soon as they pick up the package, instead of going out the boring standard way that a lot of other first-person shooters would basically force you to do, going through all the hallways until you reach your destination, they decide to make things a little bit more interesting by using C4 to blow up the goddamn ceiling. This then causes a massive, I'm assuming, air conditioner to fall on over and creates a new nifty ramp for them to make their way onto the rooftop. This is the type of destruction and Levolution that I've always wanted in Battlefield. A lot of the Levolution in Battlefield 4 feels fairly gimmicky. Like when you really get down to it, a couple of them add some tactical value, but a lot of them are just for show. The Lankang Dam, I think, is the best example of this. You take it out, it looks amazing, it looks incredible when all the rocks are flying all over the place, but it doesn't change the map in the slightest. I mean, maybe you could argue that it opens up a few new camping spots for recons, but when you get down to the objective gameplay, nothing changes in the slightest. Same is true for Zavad. I've never thought to myself, hot damn, we really need to take out that smokestack to limit the movement of enemy vehicles. It gives you a few new cubby holes that you can take advantage of, but once again, when you really get down to it, it's more of just a visual cool factor that doesn't add anything to the overall match. This doesn't appear to be an issue in the slightest on Bank Job. A little too early to tell if this type of destruction is going to be transferred to all of the maps in Battlefield Hardline. I'm crossing my fingers that that is the case. But what I'm excited about is that we're finally seeing practical and useful destruction in Levolution. What I'm loving about it is that it's now going to require some thought on how you are going to approach these objectives. If your entire squad, let's say you're playing competitively, if your entire squad is running as the Enforcer, aka the Medic or the Assault from Battlefield 4, sure, you have all this amazing weaponry going for you, you're using some of the best weapons in the game, but you won't have C4 to open up this route. And so now you need to think, okay, should we have the disadvantage that one of our guys may not be using some of the best weapons in the game, but do we want to have the option of opening up a completely different flanking route to approach one of these capture points? I love that. I love practical destruction. I love that dynamic, and I'm really crossing my fingers that they're able to take that same theme and use it on all of the maps in Hardline. Another example of this practical destruction is on a new map called Hollywood Heights. It's set in a really rich neighborhood, a gorgeous mansion where some criminals are collecting their booty, they're getting their cash, and as soon as a policeman rears his head from around a doorway, realizes that he's outgunned, there's way too many criminals to take care of, ducks behind cover, but little does he know that Visceral added in that awesome micro and HG destruction that we saw from the Close Quarter DLC from Battlefield 3. Thank you for adding this on in. I know a lot of people weren't too keen about the Close Quarter DLC when Battlefield 3 first launched that expansion pack, but I gotta say, one of the best things about it was that micro-destruction. Knowing that a few enemies were around the bend, ducking behind cover, but being able to shoot through the wall, shoot through that plaster, and take them out was a very rewarding experience. And while we only see this one wall being destructible on Hollywood Heights, I can only assume that the entire building is gonna have this same type of micro destruction. Cross my fingers, nothing has been confirmed, and we don't want to get too hyped about it, but as long as they're not trying to misrepresent what their game is all about, I can only assume that the entire map is going to have this awesome destruction, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. The last example that I have for today is on another new map called The Block, where we see a policeman walking through what looks to be a rundown apartment complex. And what's great about this scene is that he's taken out some criminals. We see some cool gameplay action, but also if you look at the building itself, there are holes all over the place, and it gives us a nice glimpse as to what the destruction is going to be on more than just on Hollywood Heights. I don't know if all this mayhem was created by mere bullets. Maybe it was grenades or C4 charges that caused all of these holes. But I mean, if you look at it, like every single building that we're coming across, holes are everywhere. And so as long as The Block and Hollywood Heights is any indication of what we can expect when it comes to this HD and micro destruction, it looks like it is going to be an integral part of the game, and that couldn't make me any happier. The last thing that I wanted to mention is a quick glimpse at the usefulness of the grappling hook. This has been a gadget that I have not been very impressed by. When we had a chance to use it in the beta, it didn't really have a whole lot of functionality. There were a few buildings that you could grappling hook on up to, but most of those buildings you could gain access through a different route. There would be a ladder or a different stairway that you could get onto the rooftop, and so there really wasn't any reason to use this gadget for any particular situation. Here, though, we see a great example of a sniper taking advantage of this gadget and getting into a location that normally would be completely inaccessible. It comes with some healthy drawbacks, though. The biggest one is that it's going to leave you very exposed. Clearly, he is not climbing this rope very quickly, and if any enemy from all angles, like this guy is way out in the open, if any enemy sees him, it's not going to be very difficult for him to quickly take him out. The other big drawback is that it takes up one of your gadget slots, and so if you do want to be able to get into one of these locations, yes, you will have the advantage when you finally get into that nice little spot, but you're not going to have access to one of the other myriad of different amazing gadgets that one of your classes would have access to. And then finally, and probably one of the best aspects about this, is that if you are a sniper and you are successful in finally getting into one of these positions, you need to be worried about dying because you no longer have the spawn beacon to fall back onto like you do in Battlefield 4. So no longer are the days where you're gonna have recons sniping you from these really obnoxious positions and having really no definitive way of being able to take care of them, because you know as soon as you take them out, they're gonna be back in that same exact position half a second later. But in Battlefield Hardline, if you are not aware, the mechanic is the one with the spawn beacon. And so unless the mechanic is working with a recon in tandem, then you're not going to have this problem whatsoever. So I think it's going to be a great dynamic. It's great to see that the grappling hook is now going to serve more of a purpose, and it looks like it's going to be relatively well balanced. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about all of this destruction and levolution. Do you like what Visceral is doing with Hardline in this department? Do you think that they should push it even farther? Do you think that they should reel it back? Let me know down below. But until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.